legally. Now, to that poll, 51% of Americans support Arizona's law as it stands. That's compared with 35% who support the U.S. case against Arizona. Pollsters are struck by the findings that Hispanics and blacks are 61% in favor of the U.S. lawsuit against Arizona's law. Now, just 30% of white respondents support that government suit. The poll was conducted by the Technometrica Market Intelligence Group. It has a margin of error of 3.4%. Joining me on the phone this morning is Congressman Brian Bilbray. Good morning, Congressman.
Great to be with you, David.
That poll's been out a couple of days. Your thoughts on America's unwavering support, but then the racial divide?
Well, I think it's because of the misinformation that's been out, David. The fact that trying to say that somehow the enforcement of immigration law is basically going after one group opposed to the fact that the Arizona law is much more restrictive on law enforcement than the federal law, that they're not pulling over people because of the color of their skin or because of the accent in their dialogue. It's really those that are stopped that end up having identification or not having identification that would make everyone suspect. I mean, when you pull over somebody and they have no driver's license and they only have a expired foreign passport, no matter what your ethnic background, that's going to justify investigating are people in the country legally when they don't have any documentation.
You know, and there are a lot of people that feel, and in fact, our reporter Steve Bosch did a story with a law expert this past week and said Arizona's not doing anything that the federal government, the federal law already says. They're just finally enforcing it. What your thoughts there?
Well, actually, the Arizona law is more restrictive than the federal law, so it's kind of hypocritical for all of us in the federal government, including the White House, to attack Arizona for basically having a law that's much more effective and less restrictive than the federal law. Now, remember, though, the lawsuit the federal government that the White House has filed now really says something. It's really kind of convoluted. They're actually suing against Arizona because they want the right not to enforce the law. The White House is saying the executive branch has the right of vetoing an immigration law after it's been in force for years, and the executive branch now says the crime that Arizona's committing, not that they've got a convoluted law, but the fact that they're enforcing the law, and that the executive branch wants the authority not to enforce the law and look the other way, rather than following the law and saying, look, the executive branch is not here to make the law, the executive branch is here to enforce it.
As this suit was filed last week, the Obama administration also announcing that they're sending more National Guard troops to the border. Governor Schwarzenegger here in California sending some, announcing that indeed he'll be doing the same. Where is that taking us?
Well, where it's taking us is that we're still treating the problem, the symptom of the problem. And, David, the real thing is if Governor Schwarzenegger, if Governor Schwarzenegger or President Obama really wants to address the issue, then follow Arizona's lead from 2 years ago. And that 2 years ago, they did something that no one can say is wrong. That is, they are requiring employers to check with E-Verify before they hire anybody. And if all the country had followed Arizona's lead from 2 years ago, we wouldn't have this problem. Arizona wouldn't be passing this latest law. And so the same people that are attacking Arizona now are the ones that should have followed the lead. Arizona 2 years ago required all employers to check getting to the source of illegal immigration, and that's the illegal employers who are exploiting them. If we'd followed that, we wouldn't have these problems. We'd be getting to that real source, and that's the illegal employers. And I think we should all be able to agree on that. Democrats, Republicans, Americans across the board, or across the board, should be able to recognize that E-Verify, checking people, making sure people are only hiring those who are legally in the country, and cracking down on those illegal employers, that's someplace that all Americans should be able to agree on.
Congressman, while we have you on the phone, I want to change topics for a moment and talk about Afghanistan. There is an article on the wires today talking about Joe Biden, the vice president, retreating on a drawdown. It could be as few as a couple of thousand troops now. Another comment from Richard Haas in Newsweek says his headline is, "It's not working and we're not winning."
Well, I think one of the things that really upsets me is that as Americans, we think that by having a centralized government in the capital, the federal government, should supersede everybody else. And one big mistake we've done is in a country where 80% of the population lives in villages, we have not implemented the part of their constitution, which is local government and state government, being able to elect your own mayor or governor, and we're not allowed in Afghanistan at this time. And I think that we're really creating a situation where those 80% of the people in the villages will never know an elected official. So the only people that they're talking to or can talk to about governing their own villages happens to be the Taliban rather than their own leadership in Kabul. And I think it's a shame that those of us in America can't set the example that, look, local government is an important part of empowering people, especially in the small villages, and that is going to be a central part of bringing peace by empowering people to take care of their own villages rather than expecting a centralized government to control everything. And I just think we're losing because we're not empowering people to take care of their own life, and it's a lesson that America ought to be remembering all along.
And so how do we do this? How do we end Afghanistan at some point?
I think one way we do it is go by the Constitution. Afghanistan's Constitution says that the mayor and council members in each village are supposed to be directly elected by the people, not chosen by the central government in Kabul, that the governor and there needs to be provincial leadership. I think that what we've done is we've forgotten that what makes our country work is the fact that the central government doesn't control everybody's life. We allow local communities to do that. And that until we do that, until we're brave enough not to control everything from a centralized government, you'll never have people feeling like the government is theirs. They think it's a few insiders controlling the centralized government, and the villages and small towns have been disincorporated. I think as Americans, we should be appalled that we've allowed a central, basically elected dictatorship to continue control and expect our soldiers to continue to participate in a system that really violates not only our concepts of what is fair government, but the Constitution of Afghanistan is not being implemented. I just don't know why we really think that a centralized government is always the answer to everything. That's not how we run our country. Why should we ask somebody else to do anything different?
Congressman Bilbray, your comments are always appreciated. Thank you for talking with us on this Monday morning.
Thank you.